Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly, Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, and a pistachio shell is her canoe.
Here.
Dana Perino, the 5. Here's an experiment. Type torture into Google, and what do you get? Beyond snippets of Hillary's speeches, you'll see Gina Haspel, the first woman to be nominated to run the CIA, a 33-year vet, more than qualified to run the place with deep knowledge of our worst enemies and how to handle them, which means she must be stopped.
On the other hand, there is controversy in her past. She was involved with the torture programs after September 11th and then involved with destroying videotapes of the matter also. That might be something that could be problematic.
I oppose her because she believes that waterboarding should be something that we use, and I think America shouldn't be known for torture.
Gina Haspel does not belong as head of the CIA. She belongs in front of a judge answering to what she was doing running a torture operation at a black site in Thailand.
I'm going to dig pretty deep for that one. All right, fact is, Gina made decisions that few people ever have to make. The world she operated in and the villains she faced, she didn't have the luxury of just talking about what to do. She had to do, because the call she answered demanded it. So, was it torture? It wasn't back then. And just because you don't like a tactic, that doesn't make it torture. Of course, she could have discussed the merit of such choices with pundits on TV rather than doing her job. She'd probably be paid more. But instead, she took the risk and responsibility so we didn't have to. She responded not just to the worst attack on our country since Pearl Harbor, but to a world-ending threat. Sure, it's easy to say, but we're better than that from a shiny newsroom. But if you think whatever she did was wrong, what is your alternative? Do you have anything beyond don't do that? Have you ever even thought this through all the way? So here's a question for Haspel's critics. Imagine being in a situation when your family's in danger and a terrorist is withholding key information that could save them. Would you still consider enhanced interrogation sadism? Would everything that's considered mean be off the table? Something tells me you'd rather leave that question up to people like Gina Haspel. So, Dana, you know this story probably better than anybody. They keep calling this torture. Do they have a reason to call this stuff torture? I don't. It's an opinion.
Well, it's their personal opinion. There has never been a legal opinion.
Right.
3 attorneys general have looked into this. All of them have declined to prosecute. The program was ended when it was no longer needed. And I think about her in terms of a three-decade career at the CIA, and all of a sudden, now she's not suitable to work at the CIA. She's been the deputy director of the CIA for the last year and a half. She has a great reputation amongst not just Republicans. She's been serving since 41's administration, but also with the Obama team.
Right.
And what I would ask people to think about is, have we forgotten what it was like on the morning after 9/11?
Yeah.
And what was happening? She was actually following orders, okay? She did follow orders that were based on a lawful program asked for by the President of the United States, and to the subject that she destroyed evidence. There was no case that was ongoing when those tapes were destroyed. And that might seem to some people like a distinction without a difference, but let me just tell you, if you're in the CIA, do you have reason to believe that the congressional members of Congress who are going to use this for decades now, we're 17 years after the fact, and they still want to pick at this scab and not allow a woman who has an amazing record of public service to be able to serve? That really chaps my hide. If there are clear reasons that she should not be allowed to run this department that have nothing to do with her work, that has not been questioned. The program does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
That, to me, if there's a substantial reason, fine, let's have that discussion. But this one isn't it, and grandstanding is so despicable.
And it's going to happen. By the way, I think chapping your hide is worse than waterboarding, from what I understand.
Well, you could make it. You could make that case.
Yes, you could.
Anything that I don't like honestly, sleep deprivation, pulling out fingernails, a lot of things. Yeah, you know what?
Playing Greg's loud music that he plays in the bump-in, that's torture.
They would definitely play that in a Thai prison.
They do. What they do, they play a lot of Metallica and Slayer. But to me, that's not torture. That's beautiful music.
So one of the hardest briefings I ever had to do at the White House was I woke up in the morning, got the New York Times, and there's a story that the CIA has destroyed interrogation tapes. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I talked to everybody that day, the president, the vice president, Mike Hayden, the former CIA director, and Steve Hadley, the national security advisor. And I remember just having a private moment with Steve Hadley before I went to the briefing. And he said, Dana, I just want to explain something to you. In those days after 9/11, this country had to make some really tough decisions. And they were tough, but they were legal and they saved lives. And I went out and I had the best briefing I'd ever had because I was confident.
I think it's going to be hard to argue against her, but they will argue against her. Kimberly, if she was a Democrat and it was under Hillary, they would say any opposition to her would be sexist. Should we say that? That it's because she's a woman. Do you think it's sexist?
No. I think it's ridiculous.
I mean, if you want us to say it, we'll say it.
Yeah.
Sexist.
Is that going to help?
This is an outrage.
Yes.
Yeah, but she's qualified. She deserves the. Okay, Juan.
It just makes me nuts. That's
okay. Don't worry.
A lot of things make you nuts. Or it could have been.
He's going to
float
float away in Dana's pistachio canoe pretty soon.
Where is it? Oh, save me, Lord.
Yeah, but she's right. Torture is anything. Sitting right here. Onions. What else? I don't like beets very much.
No.
That's about it.
But you love Super Beats.
Yeah, those are our advertisers, Kimberly. Let's just pay the bills.
Exactly. Let's take it easy there. All right, let me slow my roll. I think that she's unbelievably qualified, and whether male, female, etc., based on her record, a career of distinction, someone who's able to make tough decisions, who is widely admired by her peers, she deserves this position. They're going to be in a tough spot. It works the other way because she's a female, because then they will say, okay, why are you making these attacks against her? This could be considered sexist. She should get the job, and I do think they're going to pull a whole, work on her because of some of the background and tactics. And you know what? Because they're going to like the fanfare.
Exactly, the high drama.
Fodder for certain shows.
Well, plus, the more they talk about this, the more President Trump is going to like her.
Yeah, exactly. And it will be, there'll be,
totally.
Jesse, there'll be Democrats galloping in on their moral high horses. There'll also be Rand Paul, who's now going to oppose Pompeo and Haspel. He's great.
Yeah, the moral high horse of the Democrats, I think it was the Obama intelligence agencies that spied on reporters, that lied to the American people in front of Congress, that did a lot of really disgusting things, and they didn't bat an eyelash then. So get off your high horse, get off your soapbox. This woman's a patriot. She was trying to save lives after 9/11. I remember George Bush on his last press conference said exactly what you said. You don't remember what it was like here after 9/11. They had to make a lot of tough decisions, and she made some tough decisions, and the head of her operation, Jose Rodriguez, says that enhanced interrogation save lives and foil plots. You know who also said it? Leon Panetta, the Obama intelligence chief, and he said that enhanced interrogation led to the location of Osama bin Laden. Speaking of Leon, also Brennan, Clapper, and Morell, all the top intelligence people under the Obama administration, all support this woman. So does Dianne Feinstein, which I find interesting. Stein, excuse me. And the whole thing about her destroying the tapes, so she was told to destroy tapes, and she did. Hillary destroyed tapes because she wanted to, and that was under an active investigation.
You have to admire what he just did there.
And the Justice Department let them both off the hook, so that's fine. Now,
fair is fair.
This is a perfect example of media bias, because this is a woman who's about to shatter the glass ceiling. So she should be praised by the left-wing media, but instead she's trying to be railroaded because she was nominated by a Republican. And the media for years has been saying that women should be celebrated because they're playing in the big boys leagues and they're tough, and we need tough women that can really, take the fight to people. Now we actually have a woman like that who made terrorists whine and whimper, and they're trying to attack her.
You know what scares me is I think that Democrat husbands are going to tell their wives not to support her. And they won't, because they're so subservient. All right, Juan, I'm going to give you the argument that I always hear, that our tactics, interrogation tactics, fuel the people who hate us. It's like we just make it worse because we're lowering ourselves to that level. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, I don't think it's very American to torture people, and neither does John McCain, who was tortured.
Not torture.
So what you get, and it is torture. What's what we're talking about?
Waterboarding is not torture.
Well, I don't know. You can maybe in your your free time you want to go.
We've
get
waterboarded correspondents here.
I don't think that is rational or sane. Nobody in their right mind. So I mean, maybe it's a.
But then what's your alternative?
Where right-wing
What's your plan?
people. There are lots of alternatives. In fact, if you go and talk to the intelligence community, they will tell you they get more out of people when they don't torture them. But here's the thing. I think the key here is, will she renounce the use of torture in confirmation hearings?
But
I think that's what Dianne Feinstein had to say today, which is, look, she's got a great reputation in the intelligence community. They call her a pro's pro. But the law has changed. Torture is illegal. But in this administration with President Trump, who, by the way, is always putting down the CIA, but says he thinks torture is effective. What about Mike Pompeo, who was the former CIA director? He, too, has said, yeah, I think torture might work. So the question becomes, wait a second, are we going backwards here, having had a moment of conscience about this, where we were torturing people even after the fact? It wasn't any, 24 scenario where, we got to get some information.
So we're just doing it for fun.
That has been now taken care of.
We have no conscience.
The president has the right to say, I need this information, take extraordinary or enhanced interrogation tactics. But these people that she was torturing, those people was after the fact.
Juan, you waterboard me without the water.
It is, but it's like sloppy use of the word torture.
How's it sloppy?
I'll tell you right now.
If it's waterboarding, if it's putting you in a box.
So, some of these guys are real losers and real wimps, okay? They're crybabies. You put a caterpillar on their shoulder and they cry for their mom and no more jihad and they spill it. So that to me is not torture. It really isn't.
Well, I'm just telling you.
It's in the eye of the beholder, Juan. That's the problem.
Or loud music, or there's some sleep deprivation. There's been changes in law. She will follow the law as it currently stands on the books.
Right.
That's why I said the key point. The key point is, will she renounce the use of torture?
No, but that leads me to the question, Dana. Would you break the law if you could save lives and ruin your career, or would you follow the law and watch people die? That's an interesting question.
You don't need to do that.
Well,
the president
break
can
the law.
protect
people, but she didn't. I mean, that's a bad hypothetical.
Oh, is it?
Because you're saying that leads me to her saying like she didn't break any law.
No, I was just saying in the future.
Dana just disqualified herself because of you.
I was doing a 24 plot.
You know the other thing that I mean, obviously, it's not an easy topic. The things that these agents are asked to do are not easy. You think they want to do this?
No.
They signed up to serve their country in order to protect us. But the notion that somehow Gitmo or these black sites somehow fueled more anger against Western civilization is preposterous.
And that is a great point, because after these enhanced interrogations were no longer used, the rise of ISIS sprung up right after.
It's an ideology.
So what does they have to do with each other? Well, and the other thing is,
answer that question. What does it have to do with anything?
Okay, exactly.
I think it's cause and effect.
You said when we were interrogating people in a rough way, that was making them hate us even more and leading to more attacks. You just said it.
No, what I'm saying is that they hate us no matter what. It's an ideology that we're fighting. Anyway, I think that she'll end up with 75 votes in favor.
Good. All right.
Hope.
Excellent. Well, her arrest sparked an outcry from the left. But we'll tell you the full story behind that video of an illegal immigrant pulled away from her daughters ahead.
A big immigration win for Texas. A federal appeals court has upheld its crackdown on sanctuary cities. More on that in a moment. Meanwhile, remember this video? So an illegal immigrant mother arrested by U.S. Border Patrol, taken from her 3 screaming children earlier this month. Well, it's gotten a lot of attention. Protests erupted over it, but a key detail has been left out of the conversation. The woman was apprehended because she's suspected by the feds of organizing a human trafficking operation, which is one of the worst crimes against humanity, I think, Kimberly.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, let me tell you something. Some of the cases that We investigated and took a look at our worst horrors of mankind that you can imagine with human trafficking and what happens here. And it's unbelievable that it doesn't get a bigger spotlight. The United Nations has been decent, in terms of trying to profile and put this out here so that we can stop this. But it's like really widespread, and it's in countries that you'd be very surprised of as well. So when we do stories like this, I think it's really important that people know that this is happening, that this is going on, to put better awareness of it, and also to report abuses.
Well, and it's hard, Juan. These cases are never necessarily black and white. It's complicated, often in order to protect the integrity of a case or the people that are involved. Information is held back until the case is completed. In this case, the children were probably taken away out of perhaps to protect them, and so. There are other cases. We know the woman from Congo who was separated from her daughter, and there's questions there as to why would the federal government do that? What do you think about this case?
Well, I mean, obviously human trafficking is reprehensible, but the way they did that was offensive. I mean, I think that's the upset, is it's come to represent something larger, which is separating parents from families and children. Yeah. And so it picked up on something that resonates with the broader public, and that, the way the ICE agents operate looks like they're above the law. They look like cowboys jumping out and grabbing somebody, and in this case, separating a mother from her children. But I think that
smuggler from her children.
I don't know what she is. I mean, I think that Dana is right to point out that there's this awful charge of human smuggling involved, but that doesn't excuse the behavior of ICE agents. I don't think that we want to see police or anybody acting in that fashion.
I don't think what the police did was that bad. No. I mean, I understand like ripping a mother away from her children, but in this case, I mean, the mother put the children in a bad position.
Yeah, it's the mom's fault that she was then hauled off like that. She got stuffed in the patty. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time, Juan. You want to be treated equally under the justice system? Man or woman, illegal, legal.
Your Honor,
listen, I believe the ICE agents in this case.
All it
Sorry,
is an
Juan.
allegation. This is America still,
Juan, listen. She's going to go through due process. That's fine. I didn't see her hurting this woman. I didn't see her throwing any elbows. I thought they were treating her fine. She was the one resisting. She was the one screaming and causing a scene. You know what? If the ICE agents show up, if they show up for me, I'd go like this and get in the back of the wagon and have my lawyer deal with it. I found some interesting polling.
You take your phone out for sure.
I know Juan likes polling, and I found something that's going to blow his entire argument out of the water here.
All right, go for it.
Sanctuary City poll, and it's done by Greg's alma mater, Berkeley, so we know it's correct. 74% of Californians oppose sanctuary cities. 65% of Hispanics in California oppose sanctuary cities, and 73% of Democrats in California oppose sanctuary cities.
You could talk about either one. Just to build on that just a little bit, Texas yesterday got some news from the Federal Appeals Court, which has said that its ban on sanctuary cities can continue to take effect while legal challenges continue. So
I would like to comment on that, but also on this arrest thing. Which one should I do first?
Whichever.
All right. Well, about the arrest, originally this was seen as a martyr and an innocent person, and that is because the media is always desperate to find their poster child for their specific issue. We've been guilty on the right, but mostly the left, the media, they always try to find that exact perfect victim, and it never turns out. And this is why, if you see something that sounds too good to be true, they're ripping the mother away from the kids, it's probably not. And that's why whenever we're about to do a story and we think, oh, this sounds really, really like right up our alley, you got to look at it and you find out there's a whole story behind that story. This is not you have to look at the background and you find out it is too good to be true. Sorry, guys, you didn't get a poster child out of this one. To that story. The reason why the Republicans succeed on the sanctuary city thing is because liberals have yet to realize that a wish is not a plan. Wishing that everybody could come over here it's not a plan. So the actual liberal plan for everything from the welfare state to homelessness, illegal immigration is step one, wish. Step two, see step one. And Republicans always have a step two. Step one is like, sure, we want to have good people coming over here. Step two, we want them to go through the proper entrance with an enforced border policy. That's step one, too. Scott Adams.
Dance class, step one.
I'm going to quote Scott Adams. The problem is Democrats only offer.
Can I just fall in?
No, the Democrats only offer half a plan. They got to have the wish, but they don't have the follow-through.
You know what? You are engaged in a fantasy. Because I was reading...
But I just told you the truth.
No, you told me a fantasy about wish and wish fulfillment.
That's what Dems
Dallas
do.
Morning News today says virtually no illegal border crossings in 2017, lowest since World War II.
How did that happen?
No one crossed the border in 2017?
No. They said lowest, virtually.
Oh,
they said
lowest.
that's the lowest since World War II. And here's Greg saying, oh, the Democrats just want people to march across. This is ridiculous.
What do you think sanctuary cities are? What do they define as?
do?
If you come here, we will not stop you.
That's not the definition.
Oh, am I missing something? I think we talked about it for 2 years.
The justification is
to harbor
you want
criminals.
people to cooperate with law enforcement.
Yes, you bring that up, but there's no actual statistical evidence to show that.
You don't get deported for dropping a dime.
I will talk to the cops.
You know what I wish?
Sometimes not by choice.
Tease. All right. Tens of thousands of students across America walked out of their classrooms today to demand change to our nation's gun laws. The protests next.
Okay. That's weird. Today, students across the country participated in a nationwide school walkout to demand action on gun violence. Some prominent lawmakers joined their protest.
A lot of us will also be 18 by November, and that's when midterm elections start. So I can promise you this. Do your jobs, give us concrete solutions, and for once, value our lives over your bank accounts, or we will vote you out.
When in the coming weeks and months, more of my peers will be slaughtered in their own classrooms, when their deaths will be dismissed as collateral, you know we have a moral problem in this country.
I come to school to learn math and science and to be better in life, not to lose my life, and not to learn how to dodge bullets.
This afternoon, the House approved a bill to make schools safer and harden them against potential shootings. The Stop School Violence Act passed in a vote of 407 to 10. So very strong support, Greg, for this act.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
A few things, because we tiptoe around this because it's like teenagers, and I'm a little bit tired of tiptoeing, but I want to be very careful about this. Number one, I said a while ago, you don't want to let these causes be hijacked by other causes, Women's March, Planned Parenthood, the Center for American Progress. That happened. That bugs me. Number two, a protest should never be tied to a kind of implicit reward, meaning you're getting out of class. That taints it a little bit for me. I don't think the protest should accompany a reward. I think it should have been before class or after class. It has the feeling of a field trip, and you couple that with the attention you get from networks. It's a pretty exciting field trip. So I think there's a certain reward there that taints the protest a bit. And then I'm also worried about what it's like for students who don't participate. Will their teachers and the students that they go to class with treat them differently? Will there be peer pressure? Will the teacher think less of them? You know, I did extra credit in high school for the nuclear freeze, a very left-wing thing. That amped up my grade. I got a better grade for doing that. So I think there is going to be a correlation between participating in this and how you grade. But now the last thing, which is, it bothers me, is there's a bit of artificial restraint from parents or adults with this issue. It's like we're abdicating our responsibility to debate and criticize. We should be challenging teenagers, especially if they don't have the facts. If you're talking emotionally, you turn teenagers into adults by challenging them with facts. Emotion that's untethered to facts continues, especially when you're a teenager. I know. I was a teenager. I lived off emotion. I was a liberal. So I think that it's important. And also, an FBI executive just confirmed that there was an explicit tip about Cruz. So this isn't really about guns. It's about a lack of a follow-up, failure to catch a needle in a haystack, lack of a database that's very necessary, and I'm glad we're hardening the schools.
So you want to know who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? These kids marching because of the slaughter that took place in Florida, having a real response and offering real leadership where adults have failed, and instead you want to talk about, if this person didn't march, are they going to be punished? What about grades? What about gun control, Greg?
I think that's important.
That's what.
No, I think we've heard from you on this every day.
Well, let me just say, we haven't heard from the Congress where they passed something today that has nothing to do with gun control, only to do with, oh, maybe we should consider hardening this or doing that. Well, nothing. It's like the
making the schools safer. Isn't that what they want?
I don't understand. Why wouldn't that be almost exigent circumstances that you should have in terms of public safety? And how about a right to a peaceful and nonviolent education in this country where you're not worried about what you're going to do if you're going to be shot or you have to hide in the school or what's going to happen? You're worried about, okay, let me see if I can learn how to do algebra today, or let me see if I can learn how to read more books or do something or learn something in science or decide what I want to do with my future because I'm going to have one because they cared about my school safety.
Yeah, that's great.
Right, great.
You said
so
it
that's
wasn't
what they're
great.
doing today.
No, I think that kids should be safe in school. That's why they're marching.
No, but you just criticized what the... never mind. Rewind it. You'll see what he said.
Well, I hear so.
Play it backwards.
I feel for these kids. I think all of us do. I didn't go to school at a time when I thought that there would ever be an active shooter. And I tried to put myself in their shoes or in myself in the shoes of the parents and the teachers who go to school and worry that this actually could happen to them. I agree with President Trump when he said he doesn't like the idea of active shooter drills because we shouldn't have to have them. So then you get to the question of the policy solutions, and that's where conservatives and liberals do have a breakdown. Conservatives often go with logic and facts, and you follow that logic down and you realize actually that's not going to work. It's not going to help. I think also, Greg, to your point, it wasn't that they missed a needle in a haystack. They missed a huge silo sticking out of the haystack and decided not to do anything about it.
That's the most infuriating.
And still, there has not been accountability.
No, the sheriff's still there.
And that's the outrage. I mean, somebody should have brought that up today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in high school, I'd walk out too. I wouldn't care what the topic was, what the protest was. I'd try to get out of class. So that's why one of the reasons why you see such big crowds, to be honest. On the other hand, I don't doubt the sincerity of some of these gun control students. They're doing what they want, and I encourage students of all ages to be politically active. I think that's a good thing, no matter the topic. The only issue is I saw one of the high school students on MSNBC today. I had to watch. I was getting my shoes shined. And they asked them, what do you want? And the kid says gun control. And then to his credit, the MSNBC anchor said, well, what does that mean, gun control?
Right.
And the student says, well, I don't think AR-15s should be sold in this country. They are military grade. First of all, they're not military grade at all. The bullet's about this size. The caliber is very small. And they just have military stylings. It has nothing to do with the gauge of it. Second of all, I've seen a few other of these students, and they're very hyper partisan, and that's their business. They can say whatever they want, but I think that's turning off a lot of independent Americans, and it's actually angering a lot of law-abiding NRA members to think, you know what, this is just making me angry. This isn't helping the conversation at all. Greg also brought up the point, MoveOn.org, Planned Parenthood, and the Women's March are behind this. So someone's obviously pulling the strings, but Trump has to stay on this, because when I heard that father at the forum say this has to stop and it has to stop now, we all have to remember that dad, because we cannot let him down or any of the other parents.
Indeed, I know. And by the way, my son walked out today. Let him do what he's going to do. Just don't use my last name.
Go. Did he come back, though? That's the key. A lot of kids didn't come back.
Exactly. It's happened. Even Democrats have had enough of Hillary Clinton. Next.
With all sorts of excuses for why she lost the election, insulting some Trump voters along the way.
His whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking backwards. You know, you didn't like black people getting rights. You don't like women, getting jobs. Part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should.
So that latest dig isn't sitting well with some members of the Democratic Party. Even Clinton's former aides and surrogates are now, some of them, speaking out.
Look, this was bad. I can't sugarcoat it. She was wrong, and clearly it's not helpful to Democrats going into the midterms, and certainly not going into 2020. She's put herself in a position where Democrats are going to have to distance themselves from these remarks and distance themselves from her, particularly those Democrats that are running in the states that Donald Trump won, like Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan.
So we have a situation here where you have people like Sherrod Brown, who's the senator from Ohio, saying these comments weren't helpful. So, Greg, what do you think? Is this, in fact, something that I know you have such a vivid imagination, might imagine would hurt Democrats in the midterms?
I disagree with everything I've ever said. I think she should stay. I think the party's wrong. She deserves to stay. She's the most qualified candidate they have. She should be running for 2020. Yeah. I think that, like, right now, the fact that they're treating her this way is disrespectful. She has to run again. Her motto could be, I'm still here, going nowhere. But here's the problem. You want to solve the Democrat Party, want to solve the problem? She's greedy. She's doing these speeches to make money, getting paid. Every speech she picks up, the media goes after, so they should just pay her not to speak. Like every time, like she gets a call from, if she gets a call from, I don't know, Harvard, that's going to pay her $250,000, the Democratic Party should say, we'll give you $200 not to speak.
Okay, good deal.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So, Dana, the Republican Governors Association falsely claimed that Clinton said Wisconsin is backwards, and then the Ohio GOP said, oh, yeah, she said Ohio's backward. Then they had to say, well, no, she didn't quite say that. We're sorry.
She was just saying, no, she basically said all the states in the middle are backwards. So I think you could probably make the claim if you're in one of those states. She gives sore losers a bad name. And it's not going to be easy for them. If the Democrats had a pretty good showing last night in the special election in Pennsylvania 13, Hillary Clinton had really...
18.
Did I say 13? I meant 18. She wasn't really a factor. President Trump was the factor, and Conor Lamb was a good candidate. So that happened. But as soon as she gets back on TV, it reminds everybody, like, oh yeah, we didn't. That's right. That's why we voted the other way. I do feel bad for her because it's not easy to leave the stage gracefully. But Romney and McCain both did so. They did not give heartburn to their party. They lost and they moved on, and they've continued to serve in other ways.
So, Jesse, do you think this will have any effect on anything other than Greg's love of Hillary Clinton?
No, I mean, it helps Republicans. I agree with Greg. The special election we just had last night, Donald Trump won that district by 20 points. I guess that means that's a bigoted district. Oh, wait, they just voted for a Democrat. Maybe it's because all the husbands convinced the wives to vote for the Democrat. That's what she's saying. She doesn't like the American people. She thinks half of them are deplorable. That's why she's not likable, because you can tell that she doesn't like other people. She's misread the electorate. She didn't go to the 3 big states that, she was supposed to, and Trump busted the blue wall down. She can't read a room. I mean, every time she gives the speech, everybody falls asleep. And she assumes that because you disagree with her, you're a bad person. And that's why she thinks half the country is racist or sexist. It can't be because they disagree with her policy or that they connect with another candidate. It's because she thinks you're evil and you have bad intentions. And that's just not a good look for a stateswoman.
Yeah, but it's the best thing to happen to the Democrats because they've been dying to get rid of her, let's be honest. They're like, finally, let's stick with this one because the rest of them are waiting to come up. Kamala Harris and Oprah and Michelle Obama.
Boy, you never know that this woman won the popular vote.
Yeah, she's like stuck in a revolving door.
So did Gore.
So people can't get through.
Yeah, her coat got caught in it.
Yes. So is this for real? America might be adding a new branch of the military in outer space. Yeah, the president is considering it.
Space Force.
Space Force.
Star Wars may not just be a work of science fiction. President Trump is now floating the idea of creating a space force. Did Greg help him come up with the idea?
Yes.
Do you like riding rockets, exploring other galaxies, and firing super awesome laser beams all over space? Then you need to join the U.S. Space Force. You'll go space surfing with all American space bros, chat with exotic space babes, eat out-of-this-world space food, and defend Earth from super evil alien space dudes. It's all possible in the U.S. Space Force because putting the word space before anything makes it better. Don't believe us? Dog. Space dog. Taco. Space taco. Cat Tim. Space Cat Tim.
Did I join the Space Force? Damn right I did.
The only thing we don't have, Space Maroon 5. Because in space, no one can hear horrible music. So join the U.S. Space Force today. Warning, limited space available despite space being infinite and capable of fitting all of us.
All right, Greg. We called lips at Trump's ears.
That was from July of last year, I believe, that we came up with that idea. But it is true, like, put space before anything. Suit, spacesuit, party, space party, zebra, space zebra. Everything's better with space.
Space 5.
Space Dana.
Space 5.
Space Dana.
We should do that. Get a plane and go. Yeah, just go up. Right.
We can't even get them to pay for us to go to California, Greg.
It took 6 years to
that is
get
Space 5.
Diet Coke.
Is this going to get off the ground?
Well, in last year's budget proposal, the Trump administration shot it down. But a president can change his mind at any time. So I think it's possible. I also think it's a fantasy that liberals think, oh, my gosh, they're going to weaponize space. Well, yeah, better us than them.
Sounds awesome.
You got to catch up to the Chinese and the Russians, right?
I've got the costume, the other half of the Cat Tim. I mean, like, matching Cat Tim.
Well, I think that it's important to say the defense secretary doesn't like it, and the Air Force and the Marines think, So, but
well,
you know what?
They're going to study it. That was what they're doing now.
Yeah, let them do it. But I like the idea because if we can have more of those videos,
yes, I would enlist.
Ratings
People
will
waterboard
love
some
it.
aliens.
It's
Juan
all
will
how
love
you
it.
market it.
One more thing's up next. Star Wars may not just be a work of science fiction. President Trump is now floating the idea of creating a space force. Did Greg help him come up with the idea?
Yes.
Do you like riding rockets, exploring other galaxies, and firing super awesome laser beams all over space? Then you need to join the U.S. Space Force. You'll go space surfing with all American space bros. Chat with exotic space babes. Eat out-of-this-world space food. And defend Earth from super evil alien space d***s. It's all possible in the U.S. Space Force because putting the word space before anything makes it better. Don't believe us? Dog. Space dog. Taco. Space taco. Cat Tim. Space Cat Tim.
Did I join the Space Force? Damn right I did.
The only thing we don't have, Space Maroon 5. Because in space, no one can hear horrible music. So join the U.S. Space Force today. Warning, limited space available despite space being infinite and capable of fitting all of us.
All right, Greg. We called lips at Trump's ears.
That was from July of last year, I believe, that we came up with that idea. But it is true, like, put space before anything. Suit, spacesuit, party, space party, zebra, space zebra. Everything's better with space.
Space 5.
Space Dana.
Space 5.
Space Dana.
We should do that. Get a plane and go. Yeah, just go up. Right.
We can't even get them to pay for us to go to California, Greg.
It took 6 years to get
Space 5.
Diet Coke.
Is this going to get off the ground?
Well, in last year's budget proposal, the Trump administration shot it down. But a president can change his mind at any time. So I think it's possible. I also think it's a fantasy that liberals think, oh, my gosh, they're going to weaponize space. Well, yeah, better us than them.
Sounds awesome.
You got to catch up to the Chinese and the Russians, right?
I've got the costume, the other half of the Cat Tim. I mean, like, matching Cat Tim.
Well, I think that it's important to say the defense secretary doesn't like it, and the Air Force and the Marines think, So, but
well,
you know what?
they're going to study it. That was what they're doing now.
Yeah, let them do it. But I like the idea because if we can have more of those videos,
yes, I would enlist.
Ratings
People
will
waterboard
love
some
it.
aliens.
It's
Juan
all
will
how
love
you
it.
market it.
One more thing's up next.